you think I was going to do Cold Steel 3 next? Hell no! We're going from the game that got me hooked into the series to the one that ended my big marathon, to the, quote, end of saga, as its subtitle is called. I guess kind of my brief overall thoughts on Cold Steel 4 is, to me, at its lowest points, it never bothers me quite as much as Azure does, but I think even at its highest points, it never quite hits the highs that Azure does. So Cold Steel 4 is kind of somewhere in the middle of whatever I think of Trails to Azure, which I guess we already talked about. I'm very mixed on Azure, and I feel like it's fair to say I'm also pretty mixed on Cold Steel 4, though I think I'm just a tad more forgiving about it because I think it's a little more fun to play. Also, when it comes to the narrative, there's some things in the narrative I really like. There's some things I don't care for. There's one change that I'm going to propose, and we'll talk about it when we get to that. I don't know if it's something that would really have, this would have fixed a lot of my problems. Like, I can't believe they didn't do this. But it's more something I just kind of thought about the other day, and I was like, I want to talk through this because I wonder how it would have been. But with those very, very quick and short general observations out of the way, let's go into the presentation. So, the first thing I can say is that, starting in Cold Steel 3, the 3D games don't really look that cheap to me anymore. Granted, you do see a lot of people's faces, like, unless you are a major character, you're going to see the same, 5 faces throughout the entire game. It's super noticeable in Kuro. And I remember it being like, oh, okay, I'm seeing these same faces everywhere in 3-4 and Reverie as well. But I feel like the models generally look a lot better, the animations look a lot better, so I gotta give it some credit for that. Also, kind of like in Cold Steel 2, in this game, all of the major characters go from I guess not all of them, because the old Class 7 members don't wear uniforms because they're not in school anymore. The new Class 7 members have uniforms, and I like the branch campus uniforms. They're also quite nice. I don't like them quite as much as the main campuses, but they're still good. But now that they're not at school anymore, everyone gets their own unique drip, and I do like it. I don't know what it is. I just love a good jacket. I love a good coat. Yuna's got a good one. Ash has got a good one. Altina's still got her hat. Yusei's got her hat. And I don't remember what outfit I had Kurt, I think I had wearing his, casual gear, and he also had, a white hat that went with it, and whenever I just had it on, I was like, my man looks like a smooth criminal. It's like, this is some drip. I love this shit. Oh, it's so good. So I guess I like the designs, I like the outfits. When it comes to the music, I really like a lot of the music in this game. The battle theme, which is called Burning Throb, which I hate. I'm not gonna lie. I can't say this without giggling or cracking a smile. I mean, come on, guys. What region? Burning Throb? It's my favorite battle theme in the whole series. No question. I'll giggle at the title, but what makes me love it so much is it sounds like an anime opening, which I think I mentioned in a previous video, I'm not sure. But one of my favorite tropes of all time in anime is when the opening plays during an episode, and it's usually during the climax of the show. That shit will always get me high. That's the kind of shit that always gets me on my feet, And the fact that, this is not actually the game's opening, although the game's opening is quite good, it's not my favorite in terms of the music. I think the music is fine. I think the visuals of it look really, really good. It's a good song, and it does play during a good boss fight. It's like, yeah, that's really cool. That's really hype. But just something about the instrumentation of the battle theme. This sounds like it could be the opening of a game. And that's so freaking cool. I just get so into it. Now, unfortunately, most fights end before it, really gets going, kind of like Last Surprise in P5, which is my favorite battle theme in RPG. But, man, it's so good. To the Future, which is the true final boss theme, as well as the second final dungeon theme, because, you have a final dungeon theme, and then I believe it's the last 2 floors of it, it starts playing something completely different. And I love it. how do I want to say it? Like, it feels emotional, it feels hype, it's almost kind of nostalgic. Like, it's not like, oh, this song reminds me of another song, but it kind of gives me that feel of, okay, this is it. This is what this entire arc has been building up to, for better or for worse, but this is the end. We got 2 floors left, then we're fighting Papa. Let's go. Let us get this fucking shit done. And then, do you beat the final boss and main antagonist? Then it's like, oh, okay, now you gotta now you gotta fight the super big thing. And that shit comes back on. You're like, okay, the job's not done yet, but it's about to be. There's your target. There is the thing that is the cause of all this bullshit. Go. And it's so hype. The fight's easy as shit. We'll talk about that when we get to gameplay. But, man, the music, though, makes it feel like this is the most epic shit, even though you blink twice and you've won the fight. The other song I really wanted to shout out is the Divine Knight theme music. I think it's called Rivalry of the Seven. Absolute banger. Really, 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 really love it. And then a lot of the other tracks are also kind of holdovers from Cold Steel 3, which I haven't talked about yet because I'm a weirdo. I just really want to talk about 4 instead. Cold Steel 3 is a banger soundtrack, so just copy and paste from something I haven't talked about yet, but like, it's really, 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 really good. The other thing I haven't talked about, which I don't know why I never talked about it in Cold Steel 1 and 2, is the voice acting. I actually really, I think it is important to say, I have played all the games dubbed, except for the ones where I couldn't. Like, if I was playing, because Crossbell had not been dubbed when I was playing it, same with Reverie, and obviously the same with Kuro as well. Those I've all played in Japanese, everything else I played using the English dub. I think the voice acting is quite good. I really like a lot of the voice acting here in 3 and 4. I think, who did I write down? Okay, so the 2 characters I wrote down in particular as being like, I think their voice acting is fantastic in this game. Number 1 is Yuna. She has so much just energy and passion in almost all of her dialogue. I think it's so good. The other one I had is Franz Reinfeld. I love his voice. It's like that kind of voice that, like, I just kind of get goosebumps hearing it. I'm like, ooh, everything he says sounds like so cool, so sexy, so evil. Hey, look, a giant squirrel. I don't know if you can see it, but it's not giant, it's just fat. Anyways, I don't know if you could actually see it. Hopefully, otherwise, like, hey, look, a squirrel, and I just flashed part of my car. Anyways, point. I think he's really good. I believe the shorts were called Pokemon Generations, where it was like, hey, here's a little scene from every region, starting from Galar, ending in Kanto. And he was the voice of Ghetsis in the Unova arc, and I was like, oh shit, that's Franz Reinfeld. Man, this guy has such a good villain voice. I don't remember his name. I don't know if he has like a lot of acting credits. I really hope he gets some because he was fantastic. But so, I think the voice acting in general is very good. Those 2 were just the standout characters. So for me, I'm like, well, the soundtrack's banger. The voice acting is banger. The animation is all really good. To me, I don't feel like it's quite a 5 out of 5. Like, man, there's nothing wrong here. So I think every now and then there was something I just, like, not every song landed. The fact that I do see a lot of reused faces, even if they are mostly in the background, minor people, does kind of take me out of it a bit. But I feel like presentation to me is a very, very strong, solid 4.5 out of 5. So I think I said something a little bit ago that's not exactly true the way I said it. I believe what I said was, I'm pretty mixed on both Cold Steel 4 and Trails to Azure for different reasons, but I think Cold Steel 4 is a little more fun. I actually think it's a lot more fun. I kind of misspoke there. I think in terms of just pure gameplay, Reverie is the most fun game in the series. Then it's I would probably say the third, with Cold Steel 4 right behind it, because this game gives me so much bullshit that I can do. So, like in Cold Steel 3, it adds these mechanics called orders, which is like, okay, every character has a specific order. I think some can actually have like 2. I think Reen has like 3 or 4. But it's essentially this character, when they're in your party, can activate this ability. And while the ability is in effect, some stupid bullshit happens. Like, okay, after every move, your delay is a lot shorter, so you're going to be getting a lot more turns. Or the time to cast spells is reduced by a lot. Or it's 0, so you're just instantly casting. Damage does a lot more. In Cold Steel 3, they added like a stun gauge they call the break meter. Your break damage goes up. A lot of stuff. And I love orders. I love how much customization it really does give you. Not just in terms, like, who do you want in the party because of the order they have, and which orders do you actually use the most, which ones do you feel are super useful, not so useful, etc., etc. I really like that. If Kiseki got a fighting game, orders are one of the things I would absolutely love to see implemented, because you would really get a lot of freedom of expression about which characters get used, not just because of how they play, but because of, how good their orders are, or if it's like a tag team fighter. Okay, this is the character I'm really using because they're good. This is the character I'm using because their order is so good, but etc. Orders are a blast. They also added sub-master courses. So you got your main courses, like this gives you a bunch of abilities, this gives you some spells. Sub-courses are, you get all of the spells with it, and you get its first ability. All the other abilities you don't get access to. And in Cold Steel 3, it was, how do I want to exactly explain it? You can have whatever quartz you want equipped to number 1, and you can have whatever quartz you want equipped to number 2, but 2 people cannot have the same quartz as their master quartz or as their sub quartz. So for example, let's say Yuna is using, I'm just going to name a couple quartz off the top of my head, Minotaur as her number 1 and Sirius as her number 2. Kurt can have Sirius as his number 1 and the Minotaur as his number 2. However, Musei then cannot have either of those quartz as her number 1 or her number 2, etc., etc. Cold Steel 4 said, okay, whatever is your number 1, no one else can have it as their number 1. Literally everyone can have the exact same number 2 if that's how you want to build your party. We don't care. Go for it. That was a huge buff. I think I had so many people with like Sirius as their number 2 because it's really good for evade tanks. A lot of people had Minotaur as their number 2 because it's really good for Unga Bunga builds. So it was amazing. Just the dumb shit I was able to do with this one change. Absolutely loved it. Now there are some nerfs, because I remember some orders, I think that either their abilities were a little different, or like they kind of cost more brave points, which is the resource you use to activate them. So there was a slight nerf, kind of like what Azure, or the difference between Zero and Azure. But I don't remember crafts actually getting nerfed the way they did in Azure. I could be wrong about that, but I didn't remember it. The other big nerf was in Cold Steel 3. You could have multiple bell quartzes equipped. As I explained in Azure, a bell quartz is like after you cast a spell, your delay after using that color is reduced by half. So I remember in Azure, Ellie with the, whatever the wind bell was, I think it was the Jupiter bell, that was something that was really good on her, so then she could just keep casting her wind spells. In Cold Steel 3, the setup is to give Musei both, I believe it's the water bell and the ocean bell, and by having both bells on at once, she is just a spell machine gun, and it's amazing. Unfortunately, Cold Steel 4 did nerf that. You can only have one bell equipped at a time, so Musei was still a machine gun because I knew how to build her that way. Just, okay, really fast, have your bell up. We're going to be using Reen's order. I think it's called Dark Moon, where casting is automatic, so just boom, 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 boom. As long as something is not immune to water, it might as well be weak to it, because you are just going to be taking all of the water damage, and it was stupid fun. Just blowing shit up with Musei. That's my homegirl from both Cold Steel 3 and 4. In terms of pure gameplay, she is my favorite character, because holy crap, she's a monster. So even when it's like, okay, like we had to nerf some things because they were too broken, here's something else that we buffed to kind of make up for it, and even the nerfs aren't that bad. And I really like that, because it kind of reminds me again of Cold Steel 2. I feel like my characters are getting stronger. We are getting new crafts, upgraded crafts, and new S crafts. And I want that to happen. Now, I will say, I wish the game felt more difficult. I played it on hard. I didn't end up playing it on Nightmare. I think the first game I actually just said, I'm going to play this on Nightmare now going forward, was Reverie, and I did the same with Kuro. But, it wasn't super challenging. I think every now and then there was a fight where I was like, oh, okay, this one's a little difficult. I don't know how many times I died. I could probably count it on one hand. Cold Steel 4 was not that hard, man. And a lot of it was, yeah, you gave me a lot of dumb tools, and my characters are getting stronger. And while I love that sense of progression, I do wish the difficulty was a little better to match it. But again, kind of like with Cold Steel 2, or it's almost, kind of the inverse of Cold Steel 2. Now that I really knew how to play these games and, build my characters and kind of maximize their efficiency, I was kind of starting to realize this is what people talk about with the ending of Cold Steel 2, where if you know what you're doing, you are blasting through the bosses, and you kind of lose some of the impact. Where it's like, oh man, these people are supposed to be super strong and super tough, and at the end of the fight, you're in the cutscenes, and people are like, man, oh shit, that was really tough. I can't believe we got through that. And I'm like, guys, I went to get a snack halfway through, and I came back and you guys won on auto. I never actually put anything on auto, but if I did, I probably could have just dominated, because it wasn't that hard. And I'm not gonna screw up my builds to nerf myself, because I'm just gonna do hey, this is what I think works for this character and what I'm trying to do. I just wish the game was a little more difficult to do that. So maybe I should have played it on Nightmare, but Clay played it on Nightmare, and he's and I watched him play it. It's oh yeah, this does not look that much harder at all. So it is what it is. Okay, so next thing about gameplay is just the Divine Knights, which I think I talked about this as well in Cold Steel 2. They're fun in this game for a while, and then there's just a part in the fight where you just realize they are way too tanky. I guess it's kind of funny. I'm like, yeah, this game is really easy. This part's bullshit, though, because it kind of is. If there's a point where the fight stops being fun, it's pretty mindless for a while, and they're like, okay, well, I have all of this health. Let me just buff myself real quick. So now my damage is obscene. I'm getting 100, 200,000 health back because they have millions. It's, oh yeah, here's also a really powerful attack that'll more or less kill you or hurt you really bad and then kill your ally because we're just way too strong. It's kind of weird. It's the main combat isn't super hard, but it's still fun. And then you've got the Divine Knights, which are kind of fun, but also bullshit. So they're it's fine. I like it. I liked it a lot more in Cold Steel 2. I don't love it. I think I liked it more in Cold Steel 3 as well. It's worth bringing up, I suppose. So it is. Sorry, my next note about gameplay just says playable characters out the wazoo, because holy crap, there are so many people in this game. So you've got old Class 7, new Class 7, the core 4 members of the SSS, a big chunk of the Liberal gang. You've got the Stall Ritter at the end of the game, and then just several other friends. I'm not trying to be vague, to avoid spoilers, because I spoil everything when I'm talking about these. Sorry, maybe I should just be hey, spoiler warning for the game, but whoops. But there are so many freaking people in this game, and I love it. I really do, because again, part of it is it's options when you're building your party. Now, quite a few times, though, they're only available in certain sections, but I'm oh, right. I like these people. I love my Liberal crew. Hell yeah, I'm gonna play as them. I like the SSS. Hell yeah, I'm gonna play as them. Yo, I can play as Aurelia. She's in the party, no question. She's so fun. I love that shit. I will say, though, why the hell does Joshua not have Dual Strike? That, to me, is, aside from Phantom Raid, which is the S-Craft, to me, Dual Strike is his just signature craft from the Sky games. I believe it is the first craft that he has access to. It's consistently good, consistently strong, and I'm sorry, just hitting Weissman with Dual Strike in the final boss is so satisfying. The fact that it's somehow not here in his kit, and it's the same in Reverie, I'm come on, guys. Come on. You could have done that. You could have given him his signature move. But I mean, aside from that, I feel like the old characters are pretty well represented. Tita is an absolute monster, and I think she only got stronger in Reverie. And this might be technically a little more of like a story thing, but I feel like I should go ahead and say it while I'm on the subject of returning characters. When you do the start of the game, and it's, alright, here's your party. You get the Bright siblings, Stell, Joshua, Ren, and then Lloyd, Ellie, and then Kia there because her order is stupid. It's wonderful. I believe it is the first time in the series Ren is introduced as Ren Bright. And as someone who had just marathoned the series and got really, really into it, seeing that, like, it didn't make me cry or anything, but I was like, that's it. That's what, like, this is what it was all about. All the bullshit we went through in the third, and then in Zero, it was worth it to see this little girl happy, man. I am so, like, I'm happy, I'm proud, this is wonderful, I love this, this is good shit. We are starting Cold Steel 4 on a high fucking note, let us go. Other stuff for gameplay. So, there is a card game introduced in Cold Steel 3 called Vantage Masters. And I put way too much time into it in Cold Steel 3, Cold Steel 4, and Reverie. I think it's super fun. So this game not only brought back VM from Cold Steel 3, it also brought back Palm from Azure. So it's so much fun playing these games, man. Oh, man. Like, the stupid mini games in Cold Steel 4 are amazing. I had an absolute blast. What else do I really have here? Okay, so the bosses. Some of the bosses that really stood out as being very fun. The fights in the intermission. Well, because there's like 3 intermissions in this game. The one where you split into I guess I can't even say the boys and the girls because that also happens in the first intermission. But there's the Black Workshop intermission, which I think was pretty fun. The second intermission, I don't remember the ship. I want to say it was the Pantagruel, but that might have been Cold Steel 2, but they also might have both been the same ship. I don't remember. But the intermission where everyone's on the ship and you're like, okay, boy team, girl team. You got Class 7, new Class 7, the SSS Liberal Gang. How you gonna do this? And then the girls split off into 2 groups from who you picked to fight one set of bosses. I think it's Belle, Shirley, and Campanella. The other girls, I think, just fight the Stahlritter. Well, I don't think Arian Rhoda's there, so I think it's just the core 3. And then the boys split up to fight Xeno, Leo, and Lecter. So it might have been Claire. Yeah, so I think it's Claire. Because it's not the entire Stahlritter, because I don't think Dubes is with them at that point. Dubes should already join the party. So it should be Enea. What is it? It's Innes, Enea, Claire, Campy, Belle, Shirley, Xeno, Leo, Lecter, Cedric, the Jaeger King. I don't remember who the third person in that fight was. I might feel dumb when I remember it later, because I'm 90% sure it wasn't McBurn. It's not Daddy Arcade. Is it Reinford? It's also not... What's his face? I'm sorry. I am blanking really hard. Oh, it was George. That's why I forgot, because it was George. I don't hate him. He's very unmemorable to me. So the fact that I actually forgot him is freaking priceless. But those fights are really good. That first fight when you're fighting Belle, Reinford, and Claire with half the SSS and the Bright siblings is really fun, but I think that's mostly just because I'm like, I missed y'all. I feel like I'm hanging out with like my buddies again. Let's go. We've got the fight at the end of the workshop with Pop and the Steel Maiden. That I think is a really fun fight when all of New Class 7 is fighting Reen to like get him out of his possessed state as the opening to the game plays. That's a really good fight. Really loved that one. What else do I have here? That's actually pretty much it. Like, as I even kind of said, like, these fights aren't super hard, but these are the ones that particularly left an impact to me. A lot of the others I think are good, fine. So overall, I think the game is really fun. I think its base mechanics are a blast. Even with both the buffs and the nerfs added, stupid fun. little bit too easy. And then you have the Divine Knights, which aren't super easy, but I feel like kind of overstay their welcome in each individual fight. But it also gives me Palm Advantage Master, and I played the shit out of both of them. Absolute blasts. So if I'm being honest, this is, to me, I feel like it's a solid 4 out of 5 when it comes to gameplay. I take off points for the Divine Knights and the difficulty, but everything else is just so fucking fun. So moving on to the narrative, it's a lot like Cold Steel 2's, where instead of Chapter 1, you go here, you do this. Chapter 2, you go here, you do this. It's Act 1. And Act 1 is you go to a bunch of places. Act 2, you go to a bunch of places, etc., with a kind of general theme between each act. So Act 1 is New Class 7, essentially dealing with the ending of Cold Steel 3, which, to surmise it as quickly as possible, 2 of their members are now missing, Reen is now possessed, Milliam is dead, the end of the world is now happening, and Erebonia is afflicted with a curse, which is essentially turning the masses of the people into really aggressive warhawks. And it's like most of the Divine Knights are now active, and Prince Olivert blew up. The Courageous blew up with him on it, Daddy Arcade, and Toval. So a lot of things are kind of just completely went to shit. And your 3 remaining members of New Class 7 are Yuna, Kurt, and Altina. We're like, okay, Ash is gone, Musei is gone, not dead, but they're like, we don't know where the 2 of them are, we don't know where our teacher is. Old Class 7 is now feeling broken because one of their friends has died, one of their friends is gone, and also in Cold Steel 3, Crow keeps showing up, but he's being possessed, but everyone knows it's Crow, which I do appreciate that the game isn't like, who is this mysterious figure? Like, no, we know exactly who it is, we just don't know how or why. But like, they're not in a good place. But we can't just sit still. We have to do something. I know your friend died, and I know that your other friend who is our teacher is now gone, but we can't just sit on our laurels. We have to go. The end of the world is upon us, and if we don't act, it is going to happen. So let's do what we can to find our missing classmates, find Reen, and save the world. That is more or less the first third of the game, and it's great. I think narratively it is the best part of the game. I love New Class 7. I think they are my second favorite group right after the Liberal Gang. And so the fact that this is the part of the game that is about them and them just kind of dealing with their shit is really, really good. They get Ash back, who is dealing with a lot of guilt for shooting the Emperor, which, fair. It's like, I get why he did it. It is also something he should feel bad for. And I like what they do with him. I love what they do with Musei, who is still kind of playing up her persona from Cold Steel 3 of, oh, I'm just super flirty. I love Instructor Reen. I mean, I'm really smart, but you can't really take me seriously with all the comments I make about him. And in this game, it makes it clear that, at least to me, her thing for Reen is a little bit genuine. She does have a bit of a crush on him. It is mostly her playing a part. She is very intelligent, very calculating, very manipulative. And she's like, okay, Osborn is trying to go to war with Calvard, knowing essentially like the ramifications that is going to have for the world. He is trying to start a world war. I have to counteract that. And the only plan I can come up with that has any chance of success is if I essentially gather a world-class army. So I'm going to get my homegirl, Aurelia LeGuin, my other homegirl, freaking Vita. It's like, Musei got connections. Like, I'm going to get the 2 of them. I'm going to make a phone call and call up Cassius freaking Bright. We are going to get a squad so we can fight back against Osborn's army. And if everything goes according to plan, we have a chance at success. And a lot of people are going to die. And that is on me. Because I am the one pulling the strings. I am the one at the head of the operation. I am the commander. I mean, Cassius is the general. But I will be the one kind of a little bit above him. This is on me. Anyone who dies, their blood is on my hands. But I am willing to accept that. And there's a bonding event with Reen later where he finds out that she carries like a small gun on her at all times. I believe it only has one bullet. And she's like, yeah, this is something I keep on me in case I ever get captured because I will be the commander. She's like, as the chess master, I don't ever want to be a piece on someone else's board. I don't want them to capture me and use me as a pawn. I will take myself off the board if that ever happens. And Reen's like, you're my student. No, you dang well won't. I will never let you come to that. I will never put you in a situation where you can make that choice. I am going to take that choice away from you because how dare you, as someone that is close to me, ever insinuate that you would do something like that. And she's like, okay, well, all right, calm down, dude. Like, I get it. Like, all right, fine. It's kind of hot that you think of me that way, but fine. Okay. Like, I kind of dig that. I think it's funny. But I really like what they do with her. It feels like Reen is the main character of the game, which we'll talk about that. Crow, kind of important. It feels like the main characters of the game, Reen, kind of Crow, definitely Osborne, Duvalie, a little bit of Eustace, Musei. Musei feels like a very main character throughout the game. Yuna's like a main character in the first third. And then after you get Reen back, she just becomes part of the harem, and we'll talk about that. But the general first third of the game, just kind of getting everyone back, I think is really good. Then you get to the first intermission, which is the Black Workshop, which is where Reen is being held. You go, this is when Crow kind of officially gets back in the narrative. Dubes is making it clear that, hey, this whole end of the world shit, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I believe in my lord. I believe in Arian Road, the Steel Maiden. I still love her with all my being. But I can't support this. I will help y'all stop this. Afterwards, I'm going right back to my boss if she'll have me. Because my loyalty to her is unquestioned. But my loyalty to this shit, hell nah. They get all this crap going on. The squad, like, so you go with, like, all of Class 7 minus Reen and Crow, and William. It's like, okay, boys is one team, girls is one team, but Sarah's with the boys just so they have even numbers. And so I think it's, like, the boys fight George, and it's whatever, and then the girls fight Angie because she's been possessed, and it's fine. And then, yeah, new Class 7 goes, fights Reen, really freaking cool, and then all of new Class 7 with their instructor fight Osborne and the Steel Maiden together. Like, this is hype. This is some cool ass shit. And then, don't remember exactly what happens after that, because I know, like, some people kind of show up, you get saved, and you go somewhere. It might be Erin again, because that's one of the bases of operation, which is Rose's village. Haven't talked about her. I'll probably talk about her when I talk about Cold Steel 3. I think Rose is really cool. But all that kind of crap oh no, you go to Byronia Island, I think. Because you go there, and then you do the rivalry with Crow, which is essentially just the Divine Knight stuff. You fight Crow and Dubes, beat them, then Valimar and Ordine have a fight. Reen and Valimar win. So it's like, oh, okay, because you beat the Divine Knight, essentially they are now going to die and disappear. But Reen's like, you're my homeboy, and I'm fucking glad that you're alive now. I'm not going to let you die. So they kind of pull some bullshit, and I don't remember exactly what they term it as, but it's like, oh yeah, you're now like Reen's familiar, basically. So like, as long as the rivalries are still going on, you are going to live. But once this shit is over, you are going to pass on. I feel like at one point they might have called him a servant, because I was just giggling. I was like, so what's his class? He's got a mech. Is he a rider? I mean, he shot Osborne in the heart. Is he an assassin servant? What's going on, guys? I mean, he uses guns. Is he an archer? I'm sorry. I love Fate. I plan on reading the entire visual novel next year. Super excited for it, but yeah, I was giggling during that shit. But, see, then what happens? The first rivalry. Okay. So now you kind of get into Act 2, which is that first rivalry, and then it's just rescue missions. Like, okay, we gotta rescue Toa, Elise, Alphen, Tita, the Empress. There might have been someone else, I don't super remember, but I believe they were in, like, groups of 2. And Claire is guarding one, Lecter's guarding one, I remember Elliot's dad and his second command. I believe that's Elliot Craig. No, isn't Elliot's name of the son. I don't remember what the dad's name is. It's something Craig. That's the last time they call him Craig the Red and Instructor Nightheart, and you fight them, which is actually pretty cool. I do like that fight. I maybe could have brought that one up. I did enjoy it. And I like how they're like, we don't want to fight y'all. You guys are cool. You're literally my son. Like, it's my son and his friends. I don't want to fight you guys. But I am still a soldier, and this is my duty. I'm not going to hold back. But, I mean, if you guys win, I'm not going to hold it against you. Like, I'm not going to throw a fit or anything. I mean, please win. But, I mean, I got to do what I got to do. And so, like, you do that, and I think that part of the game is fine. The fact that you're fighting Claire and Lecter, like, all right, they are the Ironbloods. They're, like, the major antagonists of the game. So it's Osborn at the top, the Ironbloods, which is them two, and Rufus, because Milliam is now dead. And kind of on, like, the other Ouroboros mystical side, you've got the Snakes, plus, and then Reinford from the Black Workshop, and then George working for Reinford, all that kind of shit. I feel like this is a good point to go ahead and start talking with what my problems are with the narrative. Number one, excuse me, sorry, I completely zoned out for a second, that's my bad. But this to me is kind of when my problems with the narrative started becoming apparent. Number one, this is when it becomes the Reen Schwarzer show. And as I've said, in Cold Steel 2, I really liked him. And then in Cold Steel 3, I like him a lot as well. I think this is kind of when Reen is a really good character. That being said, I feel like a lot of the other characters don't really get to do a lot. I know a little bit ago, I was just naming a bunch of people, like, oh yeah, Crow, Dubes, Musei, etc. But even then, Musei feels important. Crow feels like he's Reen's sidekick. Dubes gets this really good moment in the Black Workshop, and then when you do Aryan Road's rivalry. Aside from that, not really a factor. Yuna feels like the main character of the first third. Once you get Reen back, barely a character. Elisa, I feel like her most interesting shit is kind of in her bonding events. And again, like, I feel like it's better than Azure because it kind of lets you know that this is when you got to do this stuff. But it is like, man, her relationship with her family, like, part of that is in the narrative, part of it isn't. Kind of the same with Fee. Laura's fucking dad exploded, and you can't even tell that anything happened to her. And then later you find out her dad is alive and is being possessed. You wouldn't even know. Like, she barely reacts to this stuff. And, like, Laura, I don't think is anywhere as bad as Ellie, because I feel like Ellie has so much more potential. But you can see, like, where they wanted to do something with Laura, and then just went, the game's long enough. Like, there's a lot of other people here. We can kind of ignore her. Altina, God bless her, one of my favorite characters, like, especially in Cold Steel 3, man. Here she's just kind of chilling. And it's not nearly as satisfying as with Tio. Like, Tio gets all her stuff in Zero, and Azure, she's big chilling. I'm like, girl, you earned it. You're good, and you're funny as hell. Altina's, like, not really a factor in the story. She's just kind of there, and then she becomes part of the harem. It's so bad. Elise is the worst choice. Altina's right above her in that tier. I don't actually have a full list to me. It's Toa is my favorite. Laura and Fee, to me, do not feel like romantic options. They just feel like homies. Elisa feels like a romantic option. Emma feels like a romantic option. Milliam was never an option. Claire is not presented as an option, but honestly, I kind of see it. Although that gets complicated with her now being an antagonist. Sarah, it's kind of weird because she was his teacher, but now that they're adults, I guess it's more fine. Yuna is his student, so it's weird. Musei is his student, so it's weird. But with Musei's constant hitting on him, as Reen kind of puts it in their thing, he's like, a man can only take so much teasing. I'm like, I get that, but it's also weird. Altina's just feels nasty. Like, why? No, like, they have, like, a father-daughter thing. And, like, I even think most of their final bonding event, like, if you pick her, was actually sweet and not presented in a weird way. And it's like, at the very end, it takes that weird turn, like, Lloyd and Tio. Okay, this is nice, this is sweet. And then Lloyd's like, oh, why am I popping a boner? I'm like, no, you guys had it! Why? Why do you do this to yourselves? And then, Breen and Alphen is fine. I like Alphen. I guess I have some sort of a tier list. But anyways, I feel like a lot of the female characters just kind of become part of the harem. And a lot of the male characters, like, who the fuck is Machias? Machias doesn't do shit in this game. Gaius barely, I think you're on his ship as your base of operations for the majority of the game after Act 1. So he's kind of a plot device, but that's it. Eustace gets some stuff with Rufus and dealing with Milliam's death. Like, he's not totally wasted. Elliot has a tiny little bit with his dad, not much. Ash gets a bit. Kurt has his, like, rivalry and relationship with Cedric, which I do like. It's definitely something. It's not like, if you're not Reen, you get nothing. But whereas Cold Steel 3 really felt like an ensemble cast, Cold Steel 1 really feels like an ensemble cast, but you do have Reen as the clear MC. This feels like it's the Reen Schwarzer show, but I guess some of his friends are here too, and they don't get completely ignored. And I wish it felt like more of an ensemble, especially with so many people in the cast that you could do stuff with. Problem number 2. I don't think the Ironbloods are that satisfying in this game. I don't really like the way they're written, and I think the fights with them, like, I don't feel anything when I fight them. No. I mean, I get it. I get why they're like this. At least Claire and Lecter. Because I think Rufus is great. Absolute piece of shit. I hate Rufus. I love how much I hate Rufus. But I feel like with Claire and Lecter, it's, well, the character who was kind of our little sister-ish, she died. And that's kind of what set all this in motion. We were going to try to sacrifice someone else. Whoops. But I mean, our bed's kind of made at this point. It's, if we try and go against what Osborn's doing, Milliam died in vain, so we kind of can't. We're just stuck. Which isn't awful, but I don't feel like this is who Lecter is. The way Lecter was first presented in the 3rd, and especially in Crossbell, is he feels like a wild card. Even though he is working for Osborn, you never really get the sense that he's in Osborn's pocket. Like, if he revealed that he was a fucking Anguis of Ouroboros or an enforcer, and his job was to just spy on Osborn and be a contact between the parties, I would have totally bought it. I think he even says in one of the games, I think it's specifically in the 3rd, where he says to Osborn, if you step out of line, I will do something about it. Like, you and I are allies, we're on the same side, but as soon as you're not useful to me, I'm going to turn my back on you. And Osborn's like, good, that's kind of how I feel about you. Like, I'm glad we understand each other, and I dig that. But here, he's just Osborn's dog, one of several. But with substantially less bark and bite. And it's just not compelling. I feel like Lecter is the type of character who would have seen all the shit that's going on, and probably at about the 2nd intermission, which, you know, after saving ready, we'll get to that part, is he probably would have went to the main cast and been like, hey guys, so here's the thing. Yes, I work for Osborn, but this man is crazy. I did not fully understand the plan, and now that I do, I need to do everything I can to stop it. But if I just started doing shit on my own, wouldn't have been successful. I'm smart, I can take care of things, but I'm not a god. Now that I know there is a counteroffensive with a lot of really competent people, both in terms of like their intelligence and their battle skills, working against him, I now know we have a chance. I want to work with you. I'm going to give you all the information I have. And look, I know you don't trust me. You're smart not to trust me. I wouldn't trust me. But this is the best I can do. Because the last thing I want is for Milliam to have died for this. Let me do what I can to stop him. That sounds like Lecter. what we get is, well, I mean, I'm here, so I guess this is it. I might as well. And then in the final dungeon, he tries to kill himself. And then you have Claire, the Icy Maiden. It's like super badass woman who, I know I said like Cold Steel 3 onwards, Toa is my crush, and that's true, but I mean, Claire's a woman. Like 100%. And her thing is like, yeah, like Milliam was like a little sister to me. And so her death, it breaks her. And it kind of reminds her of how she lost her little brother. But that's not the... I mean, again, I get it. I get why she acts like this. Because she lost someone she cared about. And she's grieving. But it's not satisfying to have these emotional confrontations with someone who is on the other side just because they're grieving. At least for me, at least in this context. Because I don't feel like we're having a really good, like, clash of ideologies. Like, to me, Claire, she is supposed to be a foil to Dubes. Because Dubes' whole thing is, I am loyal to this person, but I'm not loyal to the plan. This is wrong, and my sense of honor and nobility will not let me go through with this. I'm sorry, my lord. I feel like Claire is supposed to be the opposite, where she is like, you know, I am loyal to this person, I'm not loyal to the plan, but my sense of honor and nobility makes me follow the person, even if I think the plan is bullshit and off. And I would have loved a conflict between them, or like a lot of conflict between her and Reen. Instead, it's more just, I feel like I'm trapped in this because Milliam died. Well, fuck you, Claire! Man, you suck! Like, for someone called the Icy Maiden, like, boy, your ice sure fucking cracked. You ass! Like, that's not exactly what he says. It's basically what he says. They're like, yeah, you tell her, Reen, but also, this is it? You know, for two people who were honestly pretty close, and like I said, I see them with a lot of chemistry. I feel like if things worked a little differently, Reen and Claire easily could have been an item. So seeing that, and how it's not this really satisfactory confrontation, and then again, it's like after you beat her and Lecter, she's like, all right, well, time to kill myself. You're like, this is it? This doesn't feel like Lecter. This doesn't feel like Claire. Even with the current situation of what happened to Milliam, it doesn't quite work for me. And I guess my other major problem with the narrative is the curse. I think on paper, the idea of it makes people a lot more aggressive. It brings out the warhawk nature of the Erebonian Empire and its citizens is really cool. But then you get into, hey, this is also why everything in Crossbell happened, because the curse is there. Even if it's kind of lingering. And the reason Hommel happened, well, the curse is kind of because of that too. And to me, it becomes a little too much of a plot device of, this is the reason everything happened. I'm like, it's a little too much for me. And it starts infringing on, I don't want to say it, kind of the independence of the other stories. It's like, well, the reason all this cool stuff happened is actually because of this. Or the reason this horrible, super interesting thing happened is because of this. And like, it's not that I don't buy it. I don't think it was necessary. You're just kind of stepping on their toes to make the new hotness seem more hot when it just doesn't super work for me. Excuse me. But after you rescue everybody, then we get the second intermission, which I was talking about in the gameplay. You're all on the ship. Everyone that Musei has gathered comes for a big meeting. Chloe makes her cameo because she's got to show up once per series. The Brights are meeting the SSS, which they've technically met before, but all the Liberal gang that is here, meeting the SSS, meeting both sets of Class 7, and it's that kind of Smash Ultimate thing, that everyone is here, and I'm like, this is cool. I get to see Reen, Lloyd, and Estelle all in the same room. I know I've got some narrative problems with this game, but I just got a big grin on my face seeing this shit. Let's go. And then Cedric, who is Olivier's little brother and Alphen's twin, I forgot to mention, he is an Ironblood. He is in Osborne's pocket, and he's a little shit. I fucking hate Cedric. But he shows up, crashes the party, and then, like I said, you pick a squad of the girls, squad of the guys to go do shit. And after that happens, Olivier turns up because he did not actually die when he exploded because Blue Block saved his ass, which I love. I love that these two are rivals but still homies. He is alive, Toval is alive, Arcade is alive, but he is now possessed and missing an arm. So, no real consequences to the ending of Cold Steel 3 except for Milliam dying. And by the end of this game, there's no real consequences to the end of Cold Steel 3, which is not something I particularly like, if I'm being honest. But it is what it is. We continue. And, Cedric's causing shit. Osborn essentially tells him, "Down, boy. I told you to go say hello. I didn't tell you to go start shit already. Do what Daddy says." Yes, Daddy. And you basically like, all right, these are all the antagonists we got to deal with, blah, 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 blah. Act 3 is then dealing with said antagonists after the second intermission. So I'm remembering the order correctly, because I have it written down. It's you deal with Elise's family and George, because I don't remember exactly when you get Angie back. I think it's in the workshop. It might be around here, but I think you snap her back in the workshop. But it's that stuff, and then right after you fight Rutger the Jaeger King, then you go to Crossbell, do some shit at Orcus Tower, and after that you get to fight the Steel Maiden. So Elisa gets some stuff with her family, Fee gets some stuff with her dad. Again, Laura's dad is here, but you don't get anything with her and him, and it's just, why? Why did you waste this character? And then, Rutger dies. The Steel Maiden dies. You're about to save her, and then Rufus shows up out of nowhere, kills her, and takes her power, and he's just like, what else was I gonna do? She lost. She's supposed to die and get her power stolen. Come on. I'm like, wow! You son of a bitch! You horrible person! This is great, but also, fuck you! I love it. And then you get this really nice scene of a lot of Ouroboros members coming together and just mourning her. There was someone who wasn't there. It was either like Shirley or McBurn, but like Joshua and Ren show up. I think like the entire Stahlritter are there. Vita shows up. And they'll just kind of have something nice to say about it. Like, yeah, we all loved Leanne. She was fantastic. We're genuinely sad to see her go. Even if we are on opposite sides and we don't always agree on... I think Blue Lonk was there too. They're like, yeah, we loved her. This hurts. This sucks. This is why this war is fucking stupid. Because we lose good people. We lose cool people. We need to stop this. And from what I remember, that's basically the end of Act 3. It's those two rivalries and then just some stuff before it. Then you get the final intermission, which I think is called like Eventide or something. I don't remember what they were all called, but essentially it's intermission 1, 2, and 3. Intermission 3 is, like, all right, guys, the final mission is tomorrow. We're going to do our final thing to try to stop the war, stop Osborn. It's essentially stop Osborn before the war happens, and we cannot be stopped. So, we are going to have our last night to just relax. Everyone, we're in Michelin, have a good time, go on some rides, drink, be merry. Just don't drink too much. We have a war to fight tomorrow. Don't be hungover, but have a good time, okay? Just do what you gotta do. And I love stuff like that. I love those calms before the storms. And I also love when you get those kind of like almost hangover sections after like a really big crazy thing has happened. So in this, it's, you get to play some more VM and Palm, which I certainly did. You get some story stuff with Reen becoming a Divine Blade, which is pretty cool. I like it. And then, yeah, it's like, pick the person you want to be with. And I did see all the events between my game and Clay's, like his playthrough. Yeah, to me, Toe was the best one. There are some good ones. Elise almost made me throw up. I think I mentioned that in Cold Steel 1 review, and then I actually threw up after. I talked about it. But I remember I was like, this is gross. Like, this is awful. Why is this here? And then there's Altina's, which is just, oh, no. You almost had something just sweet, and then it became real icky. But, like, Elisa's, I like it. Sarah's, I kind of like it. Emma's, I like it. A lot of them feel kind of very cut and paste, though, where he kind of says, it feels like he really says the same shit to everyone, which is why I really liked Toa's. It just felt like, yeah, there's not this, well, I'm the sacrifice, so, I gotta blah, 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 and say my basic shit. He just goes in, roasting her for being short, totally flirting with her, and she's like, Breen, why are you like this? Why are you being such a jerk? You know what? If you're gonna say that you love me, you need to prove it. You come down to my level and kiss me. I'm like, this is just sweet. I adore this. This is fantastic. Do people not like this one? People should. This is the best one. My subjective opinion, of course, but that's just my opinion. Oh yeah, and then Olivier and Shara get engaged, which, I mean, I could kind of see it in Sky a little bit. It's not like it comes completely out of nowhere, and I like it because I like these two. I like their interactions. We're like, oh, okay, I guess that's where this is going. Yeah, and then it's time for the finale, for Operation Shining Steel, and the fact that it is not Operation Cold Steel bothers me. It's like, why is this called Cold Steel when it feels like this is what it's building up to? This is the final thing. Either call it Operation Cold Steel or call this Trails of Shining Steel. Like, come on, guys. Like, it was right there. But so it's, you break up into multiple hype parties. Like, you've got the LaBeoul Gang, the SSS, the Stahlritter, and the remaining members of Zephyr. One group, which is, what is it? It's like Aurelia, Toval, Vita, and Papa Arcade. And then the other one then I believe is George, Sharon, Rose, Angelica. There might have been someone else, but I think that was it. So it's essentially like a lot of the Cold Steel side characters and the returning characters. Like, you get an entire dungeon. The dungeons are very short. They're very cut and paste. Like, they're basically all the exact same. But it's nice to be, like, again, playing as the Sky Gang and the SSS, like, this feels nice. This feels right. And then these other people, like, I have not got a chance to play as some of you before. This is kind of dope. Like, y'all are some strong mofos. This is cool. And then you do the final dungeon, which I don't super remember. Like, I remember the fights. You fight Lecter and Claire, then you fight Cedric and Shirley, and they do that rivalry. Then I believe it's Reinford and Rufus and that rivalry. Maybe not quite, because at some point you fight McBurn, and then he goes like full demon mode, and then at some point you fight Campanella and Belle. I think those are in between rivalries, and at the end I believe you fight Pop Pop, and then the rivalry against Ishmelga, the Ebon Knight, which is also the source of the curse, and the true super antagonist, whatever. I haven't really said much about Campanella. He is one of my favorite characters, and I love him in this game because I love him in Yuna. Because, boy, she hates this dude. Like, she is constantly roasting him on his ass. And I love it. I think it's near the end of Act 1, where she's like, I get why other people are here, and, like, why they do what they do. I can see, like, some of them are conflicted about what they're doing, and I get it. Some of them are assholes, and I get it. But then there's you. You have no passion about what you do. You don't even seem like you care. You're just here. What is wrong with you? And Campanella's like, that actually kind of hurts a little bit. I don't like that. I don't like that you got under my skin. I'm going to try in this fight. And it's Cold Steel 4, so it doesn't really matter. But he's like, I'm going to hurt you. What's that? I fucking hate Suicide Squad and Jared Leto's Joker. But I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to hurt you a lot. That's basically what he does. And then you've got Sharon next to him going, I've never seen Campanella actually get bothered before. This is kind of weird. This is kind of spooky. Yuna, you might have fucked up. Like, I love that shit. And then you get McBurn, who I mentioned in Cold Steel 2, is just boring as sin. It's like they tried to make someone really cool, and it didn't work. After you beat him in Cold Steel 4 in his demon form, he just kind of goes like, oh, guys, I just got all of my memories back. I now know who I am, why I'm here, and what is going on. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry for all of the shit that I've done and that I've caused. You don't deserve that. I'm a demon king. I'm from outside the world. I'm expanding the lore with every sentence that comes out of my mouth right now. I need to talk to the Grandmaster. She and I have some, we have a heart-to-heart we need to do. I'm gonna go. Again, sorry. Best of luck. See ya. And I'm like, what the hell? This is so interesting, but also what? It's bonkers, and I super love it. Like, so that's a part of the Final Dungeon I really love. Do I have anything else I really wanted to say about it? I guess the other thing, I don't think I said this. I love Cedric's relationship with Shirley. Like, I hate him. He's such a little bitch. But the fact that Shirley roasts him, at one point, I think like he's in Testarossa, the Vermilion Knight, excuse me. And he's getting blasted. She's like, wow, my weapon has the same name as your knight. Like, this is what it's named after. And not gonna lie, I can feel my weapon cringing at how bad you are. Like, damn, he's just getting cooked. Also, can I just talk about, I know I talked about her in Azure. I love Shirley. Every time she's on, okay, so that's another vocal performance that I love, because 90% of Shirley's dialogue is just her laughing. And it's not that, or, no, she's just like, oh man, I love you guys. I love fighting you guys. It's so great. She is so fun every time she's on screen. And then you have her freaking weapon. It's a chainsaw flamethrower sword. It's insane. She's insane. I want to play as Shirley in one game. Like, please, give me like one fight, one like tiny minor section where I can play as Shirley and just do stupid shit. Trails fighting game. Give me playable Shirley. I need this. I need to be a Shirley main. And just go ape shit on. I mean, I'm still gonna lose. I'm bad at fighting games, but man, I might. If there's a Kaseki anime like style fighting game, Arxis, get on this. I will be good at it. Like I am not saying I am going to pick it up and be good, because I remember watching a Max video about that the other day. I love Maximilian, dude, one of my favorite YouTubers right now. But it is something I would deadass dedicate time and effort to be good at, because I love fighting games even though I'm bad. I love this series, and I don't know if I would be a Shirley main. It would honestly depend on how she plays. Like, I might learn how to play Shirley just for the fuck of it. That would be amazing. But I'm sorry, just looking at my notes about what I actually said about this. I'm like, yeah, Rufus takes an L. And then I love it because he fucking does, dude. Rufus gets clowned on in that last fight. But then, you know, you beat everybody. You win the final rivalry. Osborne's not such a bad guy. I actually really like Osborne. I think he's a really interesting character. But you fight the Ebon Knight in its true final form. And the way the game is written makes it sound like, all right, guys, it's in its final ultimate form. Now the real battle begins. The way the fight goes, though, makes it seem like less of we've got him in his true form, now we can really do it, and more of we've got him now, let's finish the job, because it's easy. It might be the easiest fight in the series, and I'm including random encounters. Like, this was not a problem. I blasted him. I had Unga Bunga, I had Ooga Booga, I had whatever the fuck I need to call evasion. It was incredible. It's satisfying. I think that's important to say. Like, what I feel at the end of this game is very mixed, but still satisfied. Whereas with Azure, it was mixed, but disappointed. Although the ending, where, like, after all this shit, you find out Milliam had a spare body, so she's fine. And then even though Crow is supposed to die, they're just like, he's fine. Like, it's some shit with, like, the other knights give up their lives to make a body for Crow or some shit. There's no sacrifice. And that does bother me. And, like, I wish there was consequences to shit, because there just kind of isn't. And, so I mentioned at the very start, there's one idea I had that might have changed some of my perspective on the game. I think it would really only change the Ironbloods. But I was thinking, what if at the end of Cold Steel 3, if instead of killing Milliam, they killed Altina? Because that is what the Ironbloods were trying to do. And then Milliam steps up and she's like, no, that's my sister. I will die instead. And they're like, oh shit, we can't save her. Because I thought about it. I was like, well, me personally, I would be a lot more invested in that. Because I don't hate Milliam, but I'm not like, no, Milliam died. I'm like, oh, I mean, that sucks. I liked her, but I'm glad it wasn't Altina. I won't lie. If Altina died, I'm like, all right, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead. Claire, you're my homegirl. Fuck you. Lecter, I love you, man. You peaked in Crossbell. Fuck you. Rufus, Cedric, Osborne, nah. I'm going scorched earth on all of y'all for killing Altina. So I would have felt a lot more invested. Reen's breakdown over losing his friend, again, because he's already lost someone in Cold Steel 2, I totally get it. I don't think that is not well done, but it might have hit a little bit harder if the person he lost was not just one of his friends, it was his student. It is someone who, in between Cold Steel 2 and Cold Steel 3, was his partner. They went on a lot of missions together. I'm so excited for the Northern War anime, and I know there's going to be some shit with Reen and Altina hauling ass, and Big V. But it's like, he lost his partner and student. You 100% understand anytime Reen is just going berserk. I think that would have made it a little stronger. But to me, I was just kind of looking at my notes to see, like, what other stuff I said. So another thing is, I would have liked to see how New Class 7 deals with it. Because, like I said, Altina doesn't really do anything in the game anyways, except be part of the harem. So that's already a win. She doesn't have to be part of his freaking harem. But, you know, Yuna kind of telling the members of Class 7 at the start of the game, hey guys, I know your friend died, but y'all need to nut up and save the world. It's a good scene. I like it. I vibe with it. But I can see the argument that this comes across as really callous. If it's her friend that died and she's saying, I hurt, but we still have to nut up and do this because the end of the world is upon us. And I am not letting Allie die to destroy the world. Fuck that. We are going to do something about this. I think it would be a little stronger. I think, you know, Musei and her dedication to, I'm going to save the world and, you know, I have to be the super chess master, it's really good and I like it. If part of it is also, one of my classmates and my friends died on my watch because I didn't see this move. This actually got me by surprise, and this is a thing I'm good at. I'm not letting that happen again. I'm not letting any of my friends or classmates die, not letting my teacher die, not letting any of his friends die. I have to be perfect here. I think it would make a little more sense. Now, I still think it works, but it might work a little better. Ash, who he killed didn't actually kill him, but he tried to assassinate the Emperor. Then he got arrested, was not there for the final dungeon. So he could look at that and say, what happened to the bunny was because I wasn't there. If all of us were there, maybe things would have been different. I could have stepped up. Maybe I wouldn't have done that much, but having an extra person there, like having an extra body, maybe could have freed someone else up to do something. Maybe I could have been a good part in Egret's plan. Maybe Wild Philly could have done some shit. Maybe, what does he call her? I think he just calls Reen Schwarzer. And then Kurt's just Vander. He's like, yeah, like maybe Schwarzer or Vander could have been freed up for like just a right moment to do something. But because of my stupid decision, I wasn't there. And we had one less person being able to save her. This is on me. That's fucking great. Kurt and his thing with Cedric. Cedric is like behind all this shit. Like he is 100% good with killing Altina. And so Kurt's whole thing with him is, I'm supposed to protect you as a Vander. That is my job, but we don't have that job anymore. So I know I still care a lot about you, and I don't really know what my place is. But now that I'm seeing the man you're becoming, you're a piece of shit. And I, as your Vander, have to step up and protect you from yourself. I have to protect you from Osborne. I have to protect you from you. That's my job. If Cedric is behind killing his friend and classmate, I think that gets a little more gray of, do I even want to protect this person? Does he deserve, like, he deserves my sword, but is that as a protector or is that as his enemy? I would have really liked that. But to me, the big thing is if you kill Altina, it frees up Claire and Lecter to be Claire and Lecter. Now, how does Milliam fit into that? This is not something that's actually in the story, but I would not be surprised if Reinford actually, like, could mess with her and essentially just make her a blind puppet. I don't want to say blind, she has eyes. Her a mindless puppet. I could totally buy that. And then, like, as part of the Black Workshop, you were able to free her from that. So Milliam then joins you. But when you're dealing with Claire and Lecter, because they didn't like, oh man, we lost Milliam, we lost our little sister, they lost someone they were completely okay with sacrificing. So when you're confronting them, Lecter can be like, yeah, I've kind of thought about this in my head, and you're right, this is bad. There needed to be someone on the inside to get information to stop it. Because I want to stop him, but I can't do it alone. Because that makes sense to me for who Lecter is. Claire, doing the opposite. She's like, yeah, I went through it in my head. I believe in this. I believe in Osborn. If this is what he says, come hell or high water, I'm down with it. And if that makes you my enemy, Reen, we're enemies. Milliam, you just left us. And that hurt. I'm not going to lie. I get why you did it. But that hurts. But if you're my enemy now, you're my enemy. Man, I would have loved that. Does it fix the Reen Schwarzer show? No. But I think there's a lot of stuff, like interesting character dynamics that I think would have been vastly improved. So if I'm being honest with a lot of the issues I have with its narrative, I'd probably give it like a 3.5. Like, there's a lot of really good stuff here. And then it just, I don't want to say like it gets worse and worse, but it goes from like really good to, okay, there's some good here. There's definitely some not so good here. I have a lot of things to take points off for. So that's 4.5, 4, 3.5, 8, 11, 12, 12 out of 15. Good shit. Ultimately, like I said, I leave the game feeling satisfied. But I feel like it could have been better, or at the very least, there's things that probably would have appealed to me a little bit more. It's not my favorite game. Like, I'm actually kind of surprised that Cold Steel 3 got a higher score than it. I honestly thought I liked 4 more than I liked 2. Did I say Cold Steel 3? I meant Cold Steel 2. But yeah, right now, of all the games I've talked about, Cold Steel 2 is in the lead. And I think next I am going to talk about Kuro. It's the one I kind of feel the next most passionate about. And I don't know what Kuro is going to get, because I think its story is absolutely phenomenal, but the gameplay's weird, man. That's where it might be like, I feel like it should be up here, but with the gameplay, it might be more like kind of in the middle. Like, we'll see. But I'm looking forward to eventually talking about it.